Cases with the most unbelievable twists you'll ever hear. Alara Vaughn was the kind of person people talked about with certainty. She's going places. She's different. She's going to escape this town. Her teachers believed it. Her classmates admired it. Strangers sensed it. Alara didn't just excel, she outperformed expectations effortlessly, as if her mind was always 10 steps ahead of the room. She absorbed information quickly, spoke carefully, and never wasted words. In leadership programs, she didn't demand authority, it followed her naturally. But perfection has a way of silencing suspicion. No one questioned why Alara never talked about childhood memories. No one noticed she avoided photographs. No one wondered why she memorized schedules like survival maps. Because trauma, when well-disciplined, looks like maturity. And Alara had been disciplined since she was small. Long before she was Alara Vaughn, she belonged to a name no one said out loud anymore. She was taken young. So young that memory didn't fracture, it reshaped. The man who took her understood something terrifyingly well. Children don't need chains, they need routine. He gave her rules. He gave her consequences. He gave her just enough kindness to blur resistance. And then he gave her a new name. From that moment on, Alara was no longer missing. She was replaced. She was taught what to say when asked about parents. How to react to authority. How to smile without inviting attention. By the time she reached adolescence, she didn't know she was imprisoned. She believed this was simply life. He reinvented himself often. Different hair. Different jobs. Different paperwork. But the eyes never changed. Marcus Hale, as he was known then, didn't need violence often. He had perfected control through anticipation. Alara learned to read silence the way others read warning signs. When Marcus was calm, she stayed invisible. When Marcus was tense, she stayed compliant. When Marcus was pleased, she survived another day. He encouraged her intelligence, but only within boundaries. Education was useful. Independence was not. Every achievement Alara earned became proof of his success, not hers. And when the world began to notice her brilliance, Marcus began preparing for the next phase. Alara's pregnancy wasn't an accident. It was a turning point. For the first time in her life, something existed that Marcus didn't fully control. And that terrified him. He framed it as a sacrifice. As a responsibility. As a necessity. He told her the child would have a better life. He told her this was love. Alara believed him, because belief was safer than doubt. The baby was taken quietly. Efficiently. No hospital records she could access. No legal trail she could follow. When she asked questions, Marcus reminded her of everything he'd done for her. And just like that, motherhood became another secret buried inside her. But something broke. Not loudly. Not visibly. Just enough to matter. Years later, when Alara became pregnant again, something was different. She was older. Smarter. Aware, though she didn't yet know of what. She didn't ask permission this time. She didn't discuss options. She simply refused. When the boy was born, Alara felt something she'd never experienced before. Ownership of her own fear. She began documenting things quietly. Dates. Addresses. Marcus's moods. Names he used. Places they fled from. She didn't know why yet. Only that she needed evidence, even if she didn't know who she was gathering it for. Naomi wasn't suspicious. That was the problem. She was friendly. Curious. Compassionate. She noticed Alara's exhaustion. Asked about her life. Complimented her resilience. And, fatally, trusted Marcus's charm. Naomi believed in people. Marcus believed in opportunity. When Naomi vanished, Alara knew, not logically, not legally, but instinctively. This wasn't a coincidence. This was escalation. And Alara understood then. She was not the only one. The highway was empty. The silence was deliberate. What happened next would later be debated, argued over in reports and autopsies and interviews. But one truth remained constant. Alara did not walk onto that road by accident. Whether she was pushed, abandoned, or left unconscious, the result was the same. She never woke up. And Marcus, for the first time in decades, miscalculated. He thought the past was dead. But systems don't forget, they wait. A fingerprint. A name. A form signed without hesitation. Marcus's real identity resurfaced like a corpse breaking water. And when investigators began pulling threads, the tapestry collapsed. Alara's DNA didn't match her name. Her records didn't align with her age. Her history had gaps no childhood could survive. She had been living inside a stolen life. Alara Vaughn was not lost. She was hidden. For years. In plain sight. She wasn't weak. She wasn't complicit. She wasn't naive. She was trained. Conditioned. Surviving. And the world failed to recognize it. Her son became the last piece. The one life Marcus didn't finish rewriting. DNA confirmed the truth. Protection orders followed. Walls finally closed in. But justice arrived too late for Alara. It always does. It was the realization that brilliance doesn't guarantee escape. That survival can look like success. That some victims never know they're victims until it's over. And somewhere in sealed records, a birth name still exists. Waiting. Detective Aaron Cole didn't believe in coincidences. He believed in patterns, especially the kind that hid inside silence. Alara Vaughn's death had been labeled unfortunate. A tragic accident. A woman in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Aaron noticed something small. No one had come forward to claim her childhood photographs. No school records before a certain age. No medical history that reached far enough back. It wasn't that Alara had gaps. It was that she had nothing before a specific year. As if she had been inserted into existence. Aaron requested sealed records, ones rarely opened, buried beneath decades of bureaucracy. What he found disturbed him. Multiple missing child cases from different states. Different years. Different names. But the photos shared something eerie. The same eyes. Not identical, but familiar. The kind of familiarity that bypasses logic and hits instinct. Children who vanished. And were never officially connected. Until now. The man known as Marcus Hale had lived at least 6 lives. Different social security numbers. Different professions. Different partners. But always the same pattern. A child enters his life. Years later, a woman appears, intelligent, controlled, emotionally distant. Then, eventually, disappearance. Alara wasn't the first. She was the one who lasted the longest. Psychologists were brought in. What they uncovered reframed everything. Alara hadn't been kept alive through constant violence. She had been conditioned through reward and withdrawal. Affection used as currency. Fear used sparingly. Freedom dangled just out of reach. Marcus didn't break her spirit. He trained it. That's why she succeeded academically. Why did she follow the rules perfectly? Why she never ran. Running wasn't disobedience. Running was unthinkable. During a secondary search of the last apartment Alara lived in, investigators found something overlooked. A notebook. Hidden inside a hollowed-out book. Dates. Addresses. License plates. Names Marcus used. And one sentence, underlined repeatedly. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. Alara had known. Not consciously. Not openly. but deep enough to prepare. Alara's son was quiet. Too quiet for his age. When therapists gently asked questions, he never spoke of fear. He spoke of rules. Don't talk about it before. Don't ask questions. Don't use your real name. That phrase froze the room. Your real name. Because children don't invent that idea. They're taught it. As Marcus's trial approached, more connections surfaced. Naomi Pierce's DNA was recovered from a location Marcus had once rented under a false identity. Another woman's remains were found miles away, long believed to be a runaway. The case stopped being about Alara. It became about a system failure spanning decades. And Marcus realized something terrifying. He was no longer in control of the narrative. Marcus didn't deny much. He reframed. She stayed. She was loyal. She understood the rules. He spoke of Alara as if she were a project. A success story. When asked about her death, he smiled faintly. Accidents happen when people forget their place. That statement sealed his fate. Through DNA genealogy, investigators traced Alara's biological family. A sister is still alive. A mother who had never stopped searching. They learned Alara's real name. But it was never released publicly. Because some truths are too heavy for headlines. And because Alara had lived long enough without it. The most unbelievable twist wasn't Marcus's guilt. It wasn't the number of victims. It was this. Alara had been preparing to leave. Quietly. Carefully. She had contacted legal aid weeks before her death. The notebook wasn't just documentation. It was a countdown. And Marcus knew. Alara Vaughn became a name remembered. But her real name remained sealed. Because myths aren't always lies. Sometimes they're shields, protecting what the world failed to protect the first time. And somewhere, a boy grows up knowing one thing his mother never fully had. Freedom without fear. Music fades into low silence. The courtroom was full. Journalists. Observers. Families of the missing. Yet the room felt hollow. Marcus sat calmly, hands folded, posture relaxed. As if he were attending a meeting, not facing the collapse of every identity he'd ever worn. He didn't look at the evidence. He didn't react to photographs. He barely acknowledged the names. When Alara's image appeared on the screen, however, something changed. Not grief. Not regret. Recognition. As if he were watching a chapter close. Marcus's defense strategy was subtle but chilling. They didn't argue innocence. They argued consent. They claimed Alara stayed by choice. That she was intelligent, capable, and free to leave at any time. That there were no chains. No locks. No visible force. But the prosecution dismantled that illusion slowly. Control does not require cages. Fear does not require bruises. And captivity does not require walls. The jury listened. And understood. Former neighbors testified. Teachers. Co-workers. Acquaintances. Each remembered Alara the same way. Quietly exceptional. Emotionally distant. Always watching. One former friend said something that silenced the room. She lived like someone who knew every mistake had consequences. That sentence reframed her entire life. As the trial continued, investigators uncovered records they hadn't initially pursued. Other children. Some disappeared briefly, then returned under new guardians. Others vanished forever. Marcus had refined his methods over time. Alara wasn't his first experiment. She was his masterpiece. Months into the trial, a letter surfaced. It had been sent but never opened, misfiled, ignored, forgotten. It was written by Alara. Not a confession. Not a plea. A statement. She described feeling watched even in silence. She described knowing she was different but not knowing why. She described believing she was broken until she became a mother. The final line read, "If I disappear, please don't believe I chose it." The jury didn't deliberate long. The verdict was unanimous. Marcus was convicted on multiple counts: murder, kidnapping, identity fraud, and crimes that spanned decades. As the sentence was read, he showed no reaction. Except one. When the judge spoke Alara's